Hello and a very warm welcome to Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And we've got a very unusual guest for you today. To begin with, let's just say that he calls himself a typomaniac. And here he is in person, Erik Spiekermann. Thank you very much for joining us today here on Talking Germany.
My pleasure so far.
Great stuff. Now, Erik Spiekermann has gained a huge reputation here in Germany and internationally as a designer of typefaces and fonts. He's also what they call an information architect. Now, the list of civil and commercial projects that carry his signature is long indeed, and he was only recently honoured with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the German Design Council. That is the highest award of its kind here in Germany. Now, Erik Spiekermann is one of those people who's always bubbling with ideas, so it's certainly going to be interesting to hear what he has to say about the following topics. Nothing works without communication. That's the message of Erik Spiekermann, who began his long journey as a printer. These days, though, he's a guru of typographic design. Design is everywhere. Even trash cans have a meaning and a message. And talking of messages, our street signs may or may not point us where we want to go. And bicycle boom. More and more people, including Erik Spiekermann, are biking their cities, but it can be a dangerous way of getting about. Erik Spiekermann, thank you very much for joining us once again. What exactly is a typomaniac?
It's somebody who suffers from having to look at every single letter he ever comes across. I can't read anything unless I've identified the typeface. It's incurable but not lethal.
OK, that's one of the complaints you have. One of the very nice things you have in life is that when you go around this city, Berlin, where we live, I'm sure that you see lots of little signs, lots of symbols, lots of signals that you yourself have planted there during your long career. That must be a cool feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I like that.
Tell me what you see. Tell me what you see that I don't.
Well, you know, I don't see the stuff anymore that I or we have designed because we've done it. But what I see is the stuff that needs doing. The mess that you mentioned, that little film there, you know, the horrible signs, the horrible forms, the stuff that would give us work for the next 50 years. OK, and you're also called, you're not just a typomaniac, you're an information architect. I sort of wonder what that is. Do I understand correctly? That's somebody who shows people how to get around a project of some kind, like an airport or a city or an internet site? Well, I didn't invent, that's a typical American invention, you know, it's oversetting something. We design things that people need. I mean, whether it's a form or indeed signage in the underground station or at an airport, architecture simply means you build something together from coexisting structures. That's all it means, really. The work that you did for the Berlin Underground was described as art, and you said, quite vehemently, quite strongly, you said it's not art. No, of course it isn't. It serves a function. It's design. I get paid for it. I don't do it because I wake up in the morning feeling a sign system coming on. It's paid for. It serves a purpose. It may add a little bit of aesthetics. It should do a little bit of aesthetics. So it has the little artistic, as you were, added value, but it's totally functional. OK, but it's totally functional maybe, but you yourself once said that you have a libidinous relationship with letters, the letters that we use to make up words. When did you first discover that you had that sensual relationship? Well, I discovered it actually fairly late, but I've always had that relationship. I didn't know how sensuous it was, like as one only becomes aware of one's failings and prejudice later in life. I grew up with printing. From when I was 12. From a very young age. Yeah, I had a printing machine when I was 12, and that's what I did. Where did you get the printing machine from? How did that start? It was found in a cellar, and it was considered superfluous by my dad, who then extracted it from that cellar and gave it to me. And when did you first make money from printing? When did your professional career as a printer begin? While I was at university. That's what I did for a living. OK. You've described typography, which is your real speciality, as a cultural contribution, like architecture, building great buildings or making fine wines. Tell me a little bit more about that. Well, we read all the time, don't we? Not just the stuff around us, obviously, that we need to read in order to survive, but, you know, newspapers, magazines. In fact, we read more than ever, even though there may be less books. We read on the internet all the time. So in other words, without letters, we'd be totally stupid and dumb. So that's why it's a major contribution to civilization and thus culture.
If it is a major contribution to civilization, why aren't the people making that major contribution better known? Or are they? And is it simply my ignorance?
No, why should they be better known? I mean, people, there aren't any famous doctors. They do their job and they make us survive. And it's by definition, it's something that's meant to be quiet. You don't know the baker who bakes your bread. You just buy it. Mm-hmm. You don't know the farmer who cuts the wheat for it. You just buy the stuff. And we very much like... I feel like I don't even make the bricks. I make the clay that you make bricks from, and then somebody builds buildings with that.
The typographer is an artisan in many ways.
Yes, with
Not
a few scientific overtones, yes.
OK. What's the difference between a good typeface and a bad typeface?
That one works and the other one doesn't.
Tell me more.
There's almost no such thing as a bad. You can make a really bad typeface, I mean, something that is like maybe despicable and ugly to look at. You can make it work if you want an ugly purpose expressed. If you have a headline for a horror movie, obviously it's going to be different than a government form. So there are some physical constraints, and A has to look like an A, a B like a B. But beyond that, everything is in the eye of the beholder. There are cultural connotations, there's fashion, trends.
Tell me, let's get a little bit more specific. We saw in that report that we watched about the work that you did for the revamping of The Economist magazine. It was very successful.
Yes.
Yeah. What were the tricks that you used, or how did you achieve that success?
Well, the major trick was cleaning things up, making the reader know what to expect. You would look at an article and you would, from the way we devised it, you would sense, OK, this is going to be a short article. If I only have 10 minutes on the Underground, I can read this. A long one, you would know this is going to take me half an hour. And you would find your way around. You would know where you were. So you would also know how much to expect and when to read what.
Streamlining.
Streamlining it, just making it transparent, I suppose.
Okie dokie. You have, I'm told, a favourite letter. That's an interesting story.
Yes. Well, doesn't everybody? Well, you haven't thought about it.
No, I tell you. Well, go on. Tell me what your favourite letter is.
Well, nobody's asked you. Mine is the lowercase a, the small a. Obviously.
OK, well, I will... Why?
Because A is the first one. Yeah. A is the first one, there you are. And it's pretty. I think it's really pretty because it has the little head. It looks like a little person with a little beer gut. And it's sort of like it walks around. I think it's incredibly pretty. The little one, not the big one. The big one is boring. OK, I'm going to have to think about what my favourite letter might be or might not be, but I'll make a confession. I have a least favourite letter. What's that?
Which is Z.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it because it's sort of aggressive.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because a few years ago I had a series of I wouldn't quite call them nightmares, but like disturbing dreams where I ended up on trains going to places like Zagreb or something. There was a Z.
Yeah, that
fits.
I agree. We have more Zs in German than you have in English, but it's
That's
still
true.
an aggressive letter.
Aggressive letter.
And it looks like it sounds, right?
So is it your least favourite too? Do we have that in common?
No, I think the I is my least favourite because it's sort of like this spindly little thing there that always merges into an L if you don't look closely.
It has a dot on top.
Yeah, I like dots.
Fine.
I like round dots. I never make square dots on my typefaces, by the way. I think dots should be round, don't you?
A dot should be round.
Don't you?
Yeah. See, this is the difference between you and me. I've never thought about round dots or square dots, really.
But
I'm blind to these things. I'm blind and blinkered.
If a dot is square, then it's not a dot, then it's a square.
If I give you a book to read, the first thing you do is, before you even look at the title, before anything else, you're looking at the typeface.
Yes, I have to identify what the typeface is, who designed it, and whether that's appropriate.
Have you had instances where a typeface, somebody's given you a book for your birthday, you've looked at the typeface and thought, I can't read that?
Yes, often.
Oh dear, painful. OK. Well, we're talking about design in the broadest sense. Design certainly has a massive impact on our everyday lives. It's true to say that when it comes down to it, pretty much anything and everything is a design product, as we find out now.
Forms, forms, forms. From the cradle to the grave. In Germany, everything is supposed to be orderly. But the design of the forms involved is confusing, and many people get lost in mountains of bureaucratic papers. That calls for a large waste bin, the basis of all order. Its design is functional, and there are at least 3 of them in every backyard in the country, making Germans world champions in separating rubbish. And because Germans make so many of them, they are exported as far away as Baghdad, where German orderliness is held in high esteem. Apropos order, it has led to a veritable forest of signs on Germany's roads. An estimated 20 million of them are supposed to help people get their bearings. But some people think it's too much of a good thing.
I've counted these signs 10 times and I've never understood why they're here. Somebody probably had a surplus of signs and just put them up with the others.
Quality instead of quantity. For instance, in design, might be a way to simplify orientation on the roads. The Germans can at least design cars. The German railway company Deutsche Bahn gave itself a facelift with the aid of designers. In 2010, its new information and signposting system helped nearly 2 billion passengers get to their trains. Unfortunately, those trains couldn't always keep to the beautifully designed timetables. Good thing you can file a complaint. There's a form for that too, if you can figure out how to complete it.
If the train's delayed, oh, this is too much.
And the moral of the story, order and orientation in daily life is all down to the right design.
Very confusing.
Well, that was there were all sorts of aspects of German design in there. We had, what did we have? We had tax return forms, and we had, street signs, and we had trash cans. What does it tell us about German design?
That it's functional.
Ah, I thought you were going to say that. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, trash cans work, right?
Trash cans work. German trash cans work.
Well, we have more than anybody, probably. I have 4 in my house.
You have 4?
My American or British visitors always laugh.
And they work. Do you have experience of trash cans in other countries? You do? You must have.
Yes. Yes, in America, where I see them, where we're supposed to separate the trash, like here, paper, and then the guys come and chuck them all into one truck. Okay. Into one truck there.
So Germans can do functionality. Can they do flair? Do Germans have flair?
Not the way, say, the Italians would. I think our flair is a little squarer. It's always a little more functional. Yes. Or let's put it that way: if we had flair, you wouldn't know.
And if Germans didn't offer functionality and the squareness, people would be disappointed, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. I always work on the prejudice. The first thing I do is fulfill people's prejudice about me. I click my heels and I snare off in this sort of Nazi accent, and they love it.
We saw in one of the reports right at the beginning there that you worked for Audi for a while. You did work for them. I've got a quote from you. For a long time, I worked for Audi, and what they said was this: we're a German brand. That doesn't mean that we're nationalist, but it does mean that we're not going to hide where we come from.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you a proud German? Are you a patriot?
No, I'm not a patriot, but I have an English family. My wife's American. I'm German, and there's nothing I can do about it, so I might as well make the best of it.
Okay. Erik Spiekermann, the typographer, the producer of Typefaces. How many typefaces are there in existence at this point in time? Any idea?
Probably about 300,000.
300,000, yeah. And I showed you one earlier before we came into the studio that I thought was going to be relatively obscure. I thought I was going to trip you up, and you looked at it and you thought, easy peasy, yeah. How many do you recognise just like that? How many have you got in your head?
Maybe like 10, 12,000.
10, 12,000.
Yeah, I used to edit a book that had them all, maybe a little more, but I'm out of it when it comes to all the modern stuff.
Okay, and you've got a business that, you're based in 4 different cities, yeah, not just in Berlin. We'll talk about that perhaps shortly. And typography it's an international business. You're selling your products internationally, globally these days. However, I guess that if I were to show you, an array of typefaces, you would probably be able to give me a fair idea of which countries they're from. Or is that, yeah?
No, it still works.
And what's the Germanic element there?
Well, we tend to be a little more functional because we tend not to do things just because we feel like it. We tend to do things because we are asked to do it, or we get paid for it, or they serve a purpose. And same with me. I would never just do a typeface because I have time to kill. Then I would kill my time instead. Gotcha. By reading or whatever, or playing music.
Okay. You are very much a self-taught man. You were telling me earlier about how you went off to England age 15. You told me about how you started printing age 12. Self-taught, self-made. You know how many? You have 40 people working for you at present?
Altogether about 80.
Okay, and I've described you as a typographic guru. You've got these youngsters working for you. What kind of people are they? Are they just as independently minded, or are they more sort of corporate?
Well, hopefully. I mean, I wouldn't hate to hire people who are corporate. The first thing I tell people is, don't listen to anything I say. Well, I say that in jest, of course, but basically I want independent people, yes.
You want independent people?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What's your favourite design artefact of all time?
It's probably one of my bicycles.
Well, that's good, because we're going to be talking about bicycles now.
I knew that.
I mean, if you've asked me about my least favourite record, if you were to ask my least favourite letter, I should be saying...
What is your least favourite letter?
My least favourite letter is
Z. You said Z,
Z.
yes.
Yeah, OK. Yeah. My favourite design artefacts of all time, objects of all time, are bikes and... I wonder if you can guess the second one. I'm English by birth.
I don't know, white bread?
Nah. Umbrellas.
Of course, trolleys.
Of course, yeah. Oh, Erik Spiekermann, I called you at the beginning of the show a typomaniac. Would you be happy for me to call you a bicomaniac?
No, I'm not that. I'm very pragmatic. I've always ridden a bike because it's always been practical. I love them. I think they're the most efficient and therefore beautiful objects. A 9-kilo bike gets me from A to B more efficiently than any car ever would for the cost of nothing.
And are you going to tell the audience out there how many bikes you have in Berlin alone?
Berlin, I have 7.
7?
Yes.
My research is letting me down. I was told you only had 5.
Well, that was maybe a few weeks ago.
And so you've got 7 bikes. Why do you need 7 bikes? Have they got different colours, different lettering, different typefaces on them?
No, I have, I have one for the city for loads, then a little one for the country, then a single speed for the city without any luggage in good weather. Then I have 2 racing bikes. I guess I don't need 2 racing bikes. I have 3 racing bikes even. Those are there because they're just beautiful. One would be enough, I agree. But all those bikes together cost less than a third of a car.
It's always good to have a lot of bikes around for when you get guests.
Exactly. All my guests can use one of my bikes and we can travel around the city and look at stuff.
The most interesting bike in my collection is a paratrooper's bike from the Second World War, which is a folding bike made for the British forces in the Second World War. I found it in a cellar in England one time, and they would strap it onto their back and then parachute down somewhere, and it's incredibly heavy. It's not at all lightweight. Fold the bike open and then get on their way.
I love that because bikes are so harmless by themselves. To see them on paratroopers is kind of funny.
It's rather odd, isn't it? Do you wear a helmet?
I do when I race. I don't run Berlin and I don't run London. I do run San Francisco.
You don't wear a helmet in London?
No, because London is harmless. I mean, English drivers are so polite and so timid that I'm not scared at all there.
That's interesting. They've just introduced new cycling superhighways in London, the blue track things. Yeah. And do you have road rage incidents when you're cycling around Berlin?
Well, yes, people do cut me off and people hassle and don't look around. That really annoys me at times, yes.
And you get angry about that? Yeah.
Well, I'm vulnerable.
We've mentioned you have offices in Amsterdam, San Francisco, London and Berlin, yeah?
And Stuttgart.
And Stuttgart. Which of those is the best city to cycle in?
I love it best in London because it's unusual and I get around so much more quickly. But of course, Amsterdam is a paradise. But I like the challenge of London.
OK. Do you know, I'm amazed about you saying this because I know a lot of people in London who cycle and they're always telling me about how very, very dangerous it is.
Yeah, I think they're repeating a prejudice that just doesn't exist anymore.
Okie dokie. We've mentioned that you're a creator of typefaces, that you have thousands of typefaces in your head. Some of yours have been collected by the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York. How many? Any idea?
I think just a couple.
I'm
not, quite frankly, I should know, shouldn't I?
Okay.
But I don't.
How many typefaces, that's the one fact and figure question I haven't asked you, how many have you actually designed yourself?
I also don't know that.
But
they come in families. Probably maybe like 20 families, but each family might have 24 sisters and brothers.
And you have more in your head, more on the way?
Yes, I have more projects that people are asking of me.
Yeah. Why does the world need more typefaces? You've told me how many there are. So
why does the world need more pop songs or more paintings?
Good question. Yeah. We'll always fall for the new
I know
ones.
It's unfair to answer
That's a
question
good
with
point.
another question.
That's a good point. Yeah, why not? We're getting quite close to the end. I'd just like to ask you this question. You're the thinking person's typographer. That's what I would like to call you, yeah? And you're also somebody who I can tell would like to live in a better world. What one design breakthrough would have us living in a better world?
I think if public communication, the authorities speaking to us, if that was more transparent and more beautiful, that would really help everybody a lot.
Okie dokie.
If you're into talking Germany, you can find out more on the internet. Your host, Peter Craven, is keeping a blog on the many shows and guests in the series. Find out more about what happens behind the scenes, gossip, experiences, how the whole show is put together. Just visit blog.dw-world.de/talkinggermany and you can tell us what you think about the program there too.
OK, let's get back to Erik Spiekermann. Erik, we're going to have our quick quiz at the end of the show. Quick questions, quickish answers, please. First one, what do you prefer, practical or theoretical?
Practical.
I knew you were going to say that. Uppercase or lowercase?
Lowercase.
A or Z?
A, of course.
Typeface or handwriting?
Typeface.
Style or functionality?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one, is it?
Can
you pass on that one and think about that for a second? We'll come back to that one in a second.
I don't think one works without the other. That's
two of your pet hates here we're going to have. Arial or Helvetica?
I always take Helvetica. It's the original.
OK. 2 wheels or 4?
2.
And what about this? Reading a book or studying the typeface?
Reading a book.
And the very last question I have for you today, Erik Spiekermann, is this guy, Erik Spiekermann, an artist or a nerd?
I'm definitely a nerd.
Thank you for that. That's all we've got time for today with Erik Spiekermann. He's been a great guest. I didn't promise you too much. He's truly a man of letters, quite literally, and of ideas. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, then do come back next week. Until then, bye-bye and tschüss.